Okay, so let us start. So today in this tutorial we will be learning about Hyperledger Indy. So Hyperledger Indy is uh, a Hyperledger project which implements a distributed ledger specifically designed for identity management. So there are many projects which are related to identity management on blockchains, but specifically this Hyperledger Indy is is implementing uh, a blockchain which is designed for storing deeds, which is based on the W3C specification of decentralized identifiers, and also verifiable credentials and verifiable presentations using blockchain. So this Hyperledger Indy provides tools, libraries, and some other reusable components that can be used for providing digital identities which are rooted on blockchains. And this Indy specification also makes it uh, possible for these identities to be used across different platforms and applications. So these identities are interoperable across different administrative domains and can be used with other applications with else. The key characteristics of Hyperledger Indy is it is a DLT purpose built for identity management. There are some other projects like SideTree, etc., which use some other blockchains, for example, Ethereum or Bitcoin network to store identity in the blockchain. But Indy implements a new blockchain which is designed for storing these deeds and managing credentials and presentations. And it is based, the consensus is BFT that Indy is using, and the identity, way identity are represented in Indy are based on deeds. So they are globally unique DIDs which are resolvable from the ledger itself. So there is no requirement of any centralized deed authority. So the verifiable data registry, the previous classes, the verifiable data registry where the deeds will be stored is now being implemented by Indy as a distributed ledger. Then apart from storing deeds, Indy also supports verifiable credentials in an interoperable format for the exchange of digital identity attributes. So if some trust anchor is trying to attest some attribute regarding another subject, then it can do that through Indy. I mean, Indy provides link to support that, and follows the standardization of verifiable credentials standardization by W3C. So, and lastly, another key feature is that it supports zero knowledge proofs for verifiable. So, while a claim is being presented, or a proof of a claim is being presented by a identity holder or a credential holder, then at that time, Indy has the tooling to support zero knowledge proof even without revealing the raw attributes. Some information about the holder can be validated by the prover. Okay, so this is the overview. So this kind of diagrams you have already seen in your previous classes. So here you see there is an issuer, a prover, and a verifier. So prover is basically the holder, you can say. So the issuer will issue verifiable credentials and it will be issued to the holder or the prover and stored in its wallet. Okay, and then when a verifier wants to validate something about the holder, then the prover can present its credential in the form of a verifiable presentation and send the credential to the verifier. and that can also be done with zero knowledge proof for certain attributes. So supporting all this is the decentralized identifiers, which is being stored in the public blockchain. Sovereign is the foundation that is supporting Indy, and one deployment of the Indy software or the Indy network is being maintained by Sovereign. So apart from deeds, here in this layer, it is not specified here, but here in this layer you will find that there are some other artifacts which support VCs and this flow of credentials and presentations. So Indy is not a single project, rather a collection of different projects which have their own specific purpose. So here I have just listed 3, but there are 2 more. So these 3 are the core projects. So the first one is Indy Plenum. So Indy Plenum is the consensus layer used by Hyperledger Indy. So this is an implementation of a BFT protocol, and it is based on the protocol called RBFT. So Plenum is used by the other layers of Indy to for basically consensus. And the next part is Indy node uses the Plenum consensus protocol to build a permissioned blockchain over it. So the blockchain is permissioned, but it is publicly accessible. A permission block. So the reads are possible from the network, but only the specific members of the network do transactions. So can write some transactions into the ledger. So the Indy node is implementing the blockchain using Plenum, and then finally there is the Indy SDK. So the Indy SDK provides APIs for applications which want to access the Indy networks, basically which want to connect to the Indy nodes and then use those Indy nodes for doing transactions, or connect to the Indy nodes to query the ledger. So this Indy SDK also has several bindings for using in different languages. So you can use Indy SDK to program or write your applications in Python, JavaScript, different languages. Okay. So how does Indy fit in the whole picture of this DIDs and everything that you were learning in your previous classes? So here if we consider this diagram, then we see that the did document and the did are recorded in a registry called verifiable data registry, and the controller is which controls the document, can change the document over time, and subject is the entity which this did refers to. So tries to decentralize this verifiable data registry component in this identity architecture. So now deed documents and deeds, so deeds and the deeds will be resolved to deed documents. So the corresponding deed documents both will be stored on the Hyperledger Indy ledger. Now users of which are trying to store deeds and resolve deeds can use this blockchain network instead of a single centralized entity to store the deeds and then also query it. And to give you a better picture, so this is how it might look. So it is not a single server running the software somewhere. It will have a bunch of Indy nodes which will be ideally independent authorities running the individual Indy nodes, and these all nodes together will be forming the Indy network, and then the users can query this Indy ledger, query the deeds stored on this Indy ledger or stored new deeds, through these Indy nodes connecting to the blockchain. So to do that, the applications, so the end user applications can use the Indy SDK, and then the Indy SDK connects to this Indy nodes to do the transactions, both queries and as well as invokes. Okay, so we will just go ahead and get started with creating a Indy pool, which is basically a small Indy network in our own systems, and then we will see how we can write an application that will use the Indy SDK to do some transaction in the Indy ledger. Specifically, we want to see how we can create new DIDs, register those DIDs in the Indy ledger, and then also query those DIDs. That is these are the basic functions, and after that we will have a small scenario where we will be using verifiable credentials and presentations to achieve a workflow. So we will see. So first we need to know how do we access an Indy network, or how do we at least configure Indy network and use it. So the official guide says that you can clone Indy SDK, and then is the easiest way probably that you can create a Docker image in the SDK's Docker file, and then run this Indy pool image and specify some ports in which port. So what this will do is this will run a Docker container, and inside one single Docker container it will run 4 Indy nodes. Okay, and those 4 Indy nodes will be forming the Indy pool, and they will be running the blockchain. But so I have created a separate Docker image which can use which will be much easier. So what you can do is you can just use this image instead. So I'll show you. So just opening a terminal. Okay, so Docker run, and then I am specifying the range of ports where I want the nodes to be exposed. So inside the Indy nodes are running in this port. So each Indy node is taking 2 ports. So 9701 and 9702 will be taken up by node 1. And then similarly there are 3 other nodes, and it is taking up this port range. And this is the Docker image that I will be running. So inside this image I have already configured 4 separate Indy nodes that will be running one Indy ledger. So you just need to start this Indy pool, and you can see if it is running properly here. So yes, you can see that it is running, and to click into it to see what is happening inside it. Okay, so we have entered this particular Docker container which is running in the Indy pool. So you can see that this is running this command. So you can go ahead and see what it does. So it is basically running a Python script which will run the Indy nodes. Let me try to see some logs. So inside 10 you will find the Indy node logs for this separate nodes. You see this there are, let me move it up. So node 1, node 2, node 3 and node 4. So this one container is running 4 nodes. Okay, now let me just say here that this is just a demo Indy network. We ideally in a real Indy deployment, these 4 nodes or whatever n number of nodes, they will be all maintained by independent entities, independent authorities, and in separate hosts, separate systems as well. and they will be forming the network. This is just a demo setup, so all the four INDI node processes are running in the same system. Okay, so so nothing has, I think it only logs error, so that's why. So this is running. Now how do we access this INDI pool? So we will be accessing these INDI nodes SDK. So the INDI SDK itself is written fast, but it has a structure such that it has many wrappers. So let me go ahead and show you the INDI SDK. This is the INDI SDK project. If you see that the main component is called libINDI, but it has many wrappers over it in different languages. Access the node. So we will be using the Python wrapper specifically, but if you want, you can use any other language. So how you can install INDI SDK and also install the INDI wrappers for that? Yes. So you can build source code, but they also provide the package for Ubuntu 16.04 and 18.04. So you can directly install it from their repositories, and to install the Python 3, you just need to run pip install Python. So this will install the INDI wrapper for Python. But before that, before installing the wrapper, you must install the actual INDI SDK. So the first step in this slide. So I have already installed INDI SDK and wrapper to verify that you have INDI SDK properly up and running. So let me just go ahead and create a Python file. So to check that if you have installed INDI properly, you can just write import INDI and try to run this. Okay. Okay, so it is not giving any error. So for example, if you have not installed it, for example, in Python 2, I don't have INDI installed, so I have only installed in Python named INDI file. If you get this error, then that means that you have not installed either the INDI SDK or the INDI Python wrapper or both. So you have to install it properly. Okay, let us go back to INDI. So we have installed INDI. So what do we want to do with this? So let us go through the first step of connecting to a pool. So we want to use this SDK to connect to the INDI pool that we just now started, right? So to connect to a pool, we need a specific transaction called Genesis transaction. And for INDI, Genesis transaction looks like this. So it will have a set of, so it is generally a JSON, or not exactly a JSON file, it is like a file which will have these entries for each Genesis node in the INDI network. So Genesis node means the nodes which are starting the INDI ledger for the first time, and then for each node there will be one entry, and you will see that there are things like there are some cryptographic keys. So there is this BLS key and then this BLS pop, and also we have these specific things that we will be using, that you can understand: client IP, client port, and node IP and node port. So this says how the INDI SDK can connect to a particular node. Similarly, for other nodes also, you will see that in the Genesis transaction itself, the IP and the ports are specified. And the example that I have here in the slide, this is specifically I have just copied the Genesis transaction which I have used in this Docker image. So the Indy pool that is running here has this has 4 nodes, as I showed you earlier. If you are running the Indy pool where the nodes are using some different ports other than these ports, then you have to make sure that in this Genesis transaction file you change these IPs and ports accordingly, because that will be used by the SDK to connect. Okay, so let us see how it will work. So I have already created, I have already a file which stores this, so I will just copy it here. So you have your code here, the Python code, and then I have just copied this file pool1.txn. It has nothing but the contents that I was showing in the slide, the 4 lines for 4 nodes having all the keys and ports such as the Genesis data. And I will be using this pool1.txn to connect to the Indy pool. So how you can connect to the Indy pool? So this is a simple code. So you need to first of all you need to import a bunch of stuff. You don't need all these imports here, but I am using it. I have just written all of them because they will be used in the later part of the tutorial. So after this, the main function is open pool ledger. So this open pool ledger will take the Genesis TXN and some other config. Basically, it takes the path to the Genesis TXN transaction file, and then it tries to open the ledger. Okay, so let us go ahead and try this code, see if this works. So I need to import a bunch of stuff, but let me just go ahead and paste the initial code. So you see that there is a run function which is async. So in Python there is a library called async.io using which you can run this async keyworded functions. So I have just imported async.io. So if you don't have async.io installed, you can just use pip install async.io to install it. Then after installing after importing async.io, so all your Indy calls, and you need to run it using an async.io loop. So for doing that, you just need to write this async.io.get event loop and use this loop to run this function run. So inside this, so you can consider run as our main function kind of. We are defining a variable pool and we are giving it one name, and then we are providing so this is we are providing a Genesis TXN path which is pool1.txn. So this will be the relative path or absolute path, whatever you want to specify, that this file will be loading this path and trying to get the Genesis transaction from that. Here we have pool1.txn just beside main.py. So we have just written pool1.txn. In your case, it can be anything, /home/ like this. Okay, so you get the point. Okay. Then from this dictionary we will be creating so inside pool config we will be dumping this as JSON. So this will take Genesis trans key and the path as value and dumping it inside pool config. So let us import JSON also. Then we will be using pool this pool variable is for this in Indy specific. So this is coming from the Indy library. So we have to import Indy pool. So we can do that using from Indy import pool. Okay, so pool dot version 2. So for Indy node version 1.4 that we are using, you have to set protocol version 2. And then finally you see that pool dot create pool config. So it tries to create a pool ledger config name pool 1 and then the transaction path. So this pool 1 file. If there is an error, then it will report the error. So this error type is also specific for Indy. Let me just go ahead and import it. Great. So if it fails to, if the config has some problem, the pool config has some problem, then it will give us an error. Otherwise, we will be calling pool open pool ledger. So this will be connecting to the pool. If this step succeeds, then we know that we have the access to the pool, and it an integer, so which denotes the pool handle that Indy is using. So if we print it, it should give some integer. Okay. So before that, let me do a print, write a print statement here, so that you know what is going on inside this pool underscore variable. So this is the config, right? Pool underscore and then config, but this is inside this variable pool underscore, which is a dictionary. Okay, so let us try to run this. Great. So it is saying that open pool ledger pool 1, then this is the pool underscore variable that I printed. So it has name pool 1, genesis transaction path is pool1.txn, and then this is a config. It also has the same thing, the path, but this is a string that will be passed to create pool ledger config and open pool ledger. So all these lines are just for connecting to the Indy network. So okay, I can show you Docker PS. So this Indy pool is running the Indy blockchain. So if I stop this, so then we see that there is no pool now, and then let us try to connect it. Then do that. What if there is no pool running? So it is still running. You can see it. Yes, it is kind of in this step. So eventually it will say that it has timed out. So let me leave it here and go back to the slides. So when we come back, we will be. This is clear. So using, and we are now able to connect to the pool. Now next, what do we want to do? We need to, and we will go through a scenario where we will be using three separate parties. One is a university, second is Alice, and then a company. So here let us consider this example scenario where Alice is a student of university and she has graduated. Now she wants to apply to a company, and this process of application, we will see that how this process of applying into a company will look like if we are using digital identities, specifically decentralized identities. So these will be the broad steps first. So for after Alice graduated, she will need a transcript from the university which she can show to the company to prove that okay, yes, she has obtained these, I mean she has covered these courses and obtained these grades, and the company can validate that and then accept her application or reject it, whatever. So there are two steps: obtaining the transcript credentials. So Alice will request the university that provide me a transcript, and university will be generating a transcript credential and transferring it to Alice. So that is the first step. Then Alice will be using that transcript credential to prepare a verifiable presentation. So the verifiable presentation will be in the job is doing. So Alice will be uh, preparing a job application for the company, and inside the job application she will be enclosing a verifiable presentation that will say that in some specific ways she has obtained certain marks or different conditions also, as we will see. And all of these basically both of these steps 1 and 2 are supported by the Indie network. How? So for verifiable credentials and presentation, first of all we need DID. So basically because the VC specification, as you know, is based on DID, so Indie network will be used as a verifiable data registry to store these deeds. And also for VCs and VPs, this flow, two specific artifacts are needed. One is credential schema and the second one is credential definition. So we will see what these two are, but these two are also stored in the Indie network. So these two must be stored in the verifiable data registry. Okay. And the another thing that is not written here is a revocation list. So this demo in this tutorial I am not covering that today. So in Indie there is also provision to store the revocation list. So if at some point the university decides that it wants to revoke the credentials of Alice for some reason, then it can do so by updating a revocation list in the Indie network. So that can be consulted by the company later, and the company can find out that credential has been revoked, so it is unusable. Okay. Now there is another important concept in Indie. So this is very specific to India, not general about the deed specification. So the Indie network has nodes which are certain roles. So the Indie network, as I mentioned, is a public permission network. So it has certain participants which have the role called stewards. So Indie is designed to be operated such that everyone can see the contents, but only pre-approved participants can write or participate in the validation consensus process, and those specific nodes are called stewards. Okay. So who can write to Indie ledger? Simply stewards can write. Then there is another role called trust. This is basically a link between users and stewards. So trust anchors are kind of, you can say, credential providers. For example, banks, universities, hospitals. In our case, universities. And these trust anchors will be onboarded by stewards. So see, ultimately deeds themselves, DIDs themselves with any physical identity that you have already learned. So one way of a deed with a physical identity is by some verifiable credential, that is some already trusted. In this model is a bit different. So as you see that TAs or trust anchors are onboarded by the approvals of stewards. So here in Indie there is a concept of VeriName. VeriName is basically a DID which can be which we can say is associated with a physical identity. So these deeds of type VeriName can be registered in the Indie ledger only by stewards, and it is assumed that stewards will be registering VeriNames after validating their physical identity. So here instead of issuing verifiable credentials to link a deed to a physical identity, registration of a deed as a VeriName in the Indie ledger is itself implying that deed is associated with the physical identity, and because the registration is done by the trusted steward, so we consider steward as the as a trust basis here. Okay, so that is a fundamental a key point of INDI, which is a bit different from the deed specification itself. So we will see when we see the when we will do the code, write the program, we will see that how we will be using stewards to actually register the deeds. Okay, so this is our demo setup that we have done. So we will be we already have the node pool running in a single host. As I said that in real scenario it will be formed of independent stakeholders. For example, there is one production INDI network called the Sovereign Network, which is maintained by the Sovereign Foundation. That is a production that is running, and I mean different companies use that. So we will be using these parties, Alice University and Company, and also we will be using stewards. So how many stewards do we have? We saw that in the INDI pool we created 4 nodes. So those 4 nodes are basically 4 stewards in our case. Okay, more stewards can join the network gradually, but we initiated our network with 4 stewards and we will be using one of them. So, and then apart from these 3 parties, there is also another party that we will be using, which is the government, for specifying the schema of the credentials. So a transcript schema have those kind of specifications will be provided by a party called government. Okay, so Alice University and Company, all these 3 participants from the same piece of code, same application or same program. So in real case, obviously they will be having their own application, they will run their own self. So okay, let us get started. So the first step is getting the ownership of a steward's deed. So as I said, every deed registration will be done through a steward. Steward is the only role of a participant which can register deed in INDI. So let us go ahead and access a steward. Let us see how we can do that. Point we already have connected to the, and we are moving to the next step of connecting to stewards. So these stewards are already there in the INDI network, the nodes basically, and they already have the public key and private key. So we need to know their private key to act as a steward, right? To get access to a steward. So how we can do that is very simple. This I have generated this in the pool with some in the pool stewards with some specific seeds. The keys are generated with some specific seeds, so we can just use those seeds to create a steward or basically access the steward. Okay, so first we need to create a structure like this. Yes, okay. So this is a dictionary. We are stating that okay, we are the name of the steward is sovereign steward, and this is a wallet config. So we are just specifying that we will be saving everything in the same wallet. Basically, that is the memory. We are specifying that the wallet has this ID sovereign steward wallet. It can be anything. So you can. It is just a string, you can put anything, and then this key can also be anything. So we'll be creating a wallet with sovereign steward wallet ID and this key, and this steward will be using the pool handle, that the pool that we connected. And this is the important part, the seed. So this seed in Indy is basically something with which if you generate a particular deed with a seed, then the private key associated with the deeds verification method generated according to the seed, and if you use the same seed, you will get back the private key. Okay, this is our stewards. We will just see how we can create the wallet and access it, but let us just see if our code is working fine. Oh no, it is not working because because we stopped our pool and we see that we have a pool ledger timeout. Okay, so it will again show me a timeout, so let me interrupt it and start the pool again. Yes, the pool is running. Okay, so we want to initialize this or get access to this steward. So how can we do that? So firstly, we have to create a wallet. So for creating a wallet, we have a utility function. Let me go ahead and paste it here. Okay, so let us see what it does. So Indy has a wallet library with which we can manage the wallet. So we are doing wallet and then create wallet and passing the wallet config and wallet credentials. Okay, so we are doing create wallet, and then we are also doing open wallet and storing the opened wallet in this variable that is passed identity. So we will be using this create wallet to initialize the stewards wallet. Okay, so stewards wallet is initialized at this point. Next, what do we need to do? So we need to create and store this stewards deed also. So at this point, we have an empty wallet. Where is the wallet stored? The wallet is stored in steward, and then so steward is being passed here. So this identity variable is the steward dictionary, and inside that a key wallet is created, and so inside this key wallet, this opened wallet variable is assigned. Okay, so you can access the wallet using steward wallet. This is showing a key error. Perhaps I need to do an await. Yes, this is an async function, so I need to do an await here. Okay, so it says that the wallet ID is 5. So Indy will be managing the wallet ID and everything. So it is just printing the wallet ID. Okay. So we have created a wallet for this steward, the user steward. Now we need to get hold of its DID also. The DID is already present in the Indy ledger because this is a steward, which is one of the nodes in the among the 4 nodes which are running the Indy network. Okay, so we just need to get hold of the deed. Okay, and store the deed's credentials in our wallet. So for that we will be doing steward, and then we can store the deed info in its in this variable. So basically we have to create a JSON string which has this seed value that we already created, seed steward seed. So this JSON will be used by the India library to generate the private key of the steward. Okay, let's do that. So we will be using await did no input did. So did dot towards wallet ID, which is this, and then also ask this did info, so that the JSON that I printed. Right. Let us print. So it returns a key pair. So this is the public key and this is the private key. Okay. So we will be storing this key pair. So so this is actually the public key is also the DID. So in the DID, if you consider the third part of the URL, so did colon then the method then colon then the ID, then this is basically the third part. So you can consider that the did, if you call your network demo in the network, then here you can say that the did of the steward is did then demo in the network. Well, the Indian network implements all the did specification method, and this is the ID. Okay, it is unique in this network. So this identifier. Right. So we will be, let's go ahead and store this. So note that this did is already present in the ledger. So I mean, we have not validated it, but since we are generating this with this seed, we know that this is already in the ledger. We will be just using the private key to just put this into our did and steward key. Great. So at this point we have the steward ready. Now we can use this steward, create deeds for the university, the company, and also our participant for the government. Okay. So this was another step. Now create an register deeds for university, company, and let me do government first. Government, university, and company. So this part is also very simple. This is very similar to the part that we already did. So we will be specifying a government dictionary. So the name will be government. We have a wallet config, some ID, some key, the same pool, and this is important, the role. So we'll be generating a very name, which is a register. We'll be registering this deed as a very name in the Indy ledger. Say that okay, this the real deed has been verified. So what is the real identity? This name only, nothing else. So the name is proper. That is assumed that if a steward is registering something, it should be validating it offline, the physical identity. So to register the very name, we can write a utility function. Okay, let me just go ahead and paste that function here on top, and then another one, this. So getting very name, then we have arguments from and to. Okay. So here the from and to will be the steward, and I mean who is registering. From means who is doing the transaction. So in our case, all transactions will be done by all deed registration transactions will be done by the steward. Okay, and to this argument is basically the participant for which the steward is registering the deed. So the government, the university, and the company at one point. So first this function creates this wallet using the same function create wallet, and then it stores the create and store my did. So note, this create and store my did only stores the did in the local wallet. It does not mean that the did is being registered in the ledger. So when we call this create and store my did for the steward also, we did not store it in the ledger. So as I said, that is already there in the ledger, so we did not store it. But here, after storing it in our wallet, we will be explicitly sending it to the ledger. Okay, now this payload is formed using the deed. The verification key means public key, and the role. So the verification key will be the public key of the government here, and then role will be trust anchor as we specified a while back. Then it will do a ledger.build NIM request. So deed registration requests are called NIM requests in NYM transactions. Okay, so it will do build NIM request and then sign and submit request. So here this function is basically building a NIM request with the deed who is submitting the steward's deed, the new deed which is being created, the government, then we will also do for company and university, and then the new key which is the verification key. Okay, not the private key. The private key stays with the deed controller. The deed controller is the government. Okay, the verification key, the public key, goes to the ledger. And using that public key, later if the controller wants to change the deed, then the controller can authenticate using its private key, which will be validated against the public key which is present in the ledger. So we need to import another thing, which is ledger. I think then everything is fine. So after build NIM request, it will we are saving it in this variable NIM request. We are printing it and then sending it in sign and submit request. So let us call it. So we have to do await and then getting very name. So from is steward and 2 is this one that we are creating, government. Okay. Let me also have a nice print statement here so that we know we are at this point. So you see that government registering very name. So wallet is created, then this is the request which is sent, and it did not produce any error, so it is fine. This role 101. So this role become 101 plus anchors. Inside it maps this roles to different integers. So if you see the India documents, you will find is to build a NIM request. The request takes that role, this role, and converts it into that role integer. If you provide an invalid role, then it should ideally throw some error. I'm not sure. Yes, it says that there is an error. in the build dim request. You need to specify the role properly. Great. So similarly, let us go ahead and do the same steps for. So we have registered a government. So the government has a DID. Similarly, we need one for university and so let us go ahead and okay. University called the university. The company. So we have registered the entities and plus the steward which was already there. Okay. Next, this was all about deed registrations only. Now we will be using these deeds to create the verifiable credentials and see how the verifiable credentials can be presented. Okay. So we have covered this part, getting registering very name, and we saw how it's work through ledger.build name request and ledger.sign and submit requests. So the third step after connecting to pool and having all those connecting to stewards and getting those deed registered, the third step is creating a credential schema for university transcript. So in our flow, as you saw in the diagram, that Alice needs a transcript credential from the university. Now, each verifiable credential must have a specific schema. Okay, why? Because without a schema, it is not possible to validate all its attributes, because it will not be known for a credential what attributes are there that need to be validated to make it a valid credential. So a credential schema is the of attributes which one particular credential can contain. So we need to know that if somebody is issuing a transcript credential, then inside that transcript what fields will be there, what encoding it's not be using to decode those things. The representation credential would be specific credential schema. So in Indy, it is not possible to update an existing schema. So this is an Indy specific limitation. So if you need to change a schema, that you need to basically change, register it with a new version or a new name. And this schema can be created in the Indy ledger by any trust anchor. This trust anchor is the role. So how many trust anchors did we register? We registered 3. So this company is a trust anchor, university is a trust anchor, and government is a trust anchor. So in our use case, schema will be created by the government only. So government will tell that a transcript should look like this, and it should have the following fields. Okay. So here is the code snippet. So we will be specifying this transcript schema. It will have a name, the name of the type of credential. It is called transcript. Some version number which, as you saw in the last slide, you need to change if you want to update it. Update the schema, and then attributes, that what fields it will contain. So ideally it should also contain encoding schemes, etc., but we have not shown it in the demo, and Indy also does not support all the features that should be present in this schema. So this transcript schema will be registered by the government into the ledger. So this, and then this schema can be used to issue credential as per the proper format, and also the company which will be ultimately validating the credential that is presented by Alice. Okay. So for this, for storing the schema in the ledger, there is this function called issuer create schema, and then ledger.build schema request and sign and submit request. So this build schema request, like request, we have a different type of transaction called schema. Schema will take the deed who is registering the schema and also the structure. Not exactly this is provided by which is produced by to create issuer create schema function. Okay, so let me go ahead and paste this. We will also add some print statements so that we can see that how this particular request looks. Okay, we need to import certain stuff. So anon creates is also a part of Indy. Okay, so anon creates is a library which is provided by Indy. So which will be used for handling the credentials. So schema is also a thing associated with credentials. So it is present inside this anon creates library. So anon creates was, the name basically means anonymous credential. So it was designed for making it possible to present some credential without revealing everything, using zero knowledge and everything. So that is why it is anon creates. So let me just go ahead and print this transcript schema. So this transcript schema is used by the this name request will take this government transcript schema. Yes. So I'm printing it to see show you how it looks. Okay, so this is the, I should have given some new lines, but this is the transcript schema. So you see that it says the attribute names, average, first name, status, degree, SSN, last name, year, and there is this version number, name, and also the deed of the registering authority. So government's deed basically. Okay. So at this point the transcript schema is also registered in the ledger. Then what do we do next? We have the schema. We actually have another step before the credential can be issued. So that is called credential definition. So now in the ledger we now have how many things? We have the deeds and we have the schema. The third thing that needs to be stored in the ledger is an artifact called credential definition. So credential definition actually specifies the keys that the issuer uses for the public key. Consider where from the university, consider a scenario where I am receiving a presentation of a transcript which is issued by the university. Then from that presentation, somehow I have to identify what key is being, what key should be used to validate that presentation. Okay. Now you can say that the presentation itself can list the public key, and since the presentation has the deed of the issuer, that public key can be mapped to the deed from the Indy ledger, because the Indy ledger also has the issuer's deed and the public key. But see the one deed can have many authentication endpoints, so many key pairs, so many public keys for different purposes. So to make it easier to validate credentials, the issuer stores, saves this artifact called credential definition, which specifies the keys that the issuer will use for signing that particular credential type. For us, here we have the transcript which will be issued by the university. So the university will register a credential definition for the transcript type, and it also uh, has some more important uh, points that are specified here. So I don't think it is written here. No. So this credential definition also also states what algorithm, what cryptographic algorithm has to be used to verify a particular presentation with the help of this key. So it not only specifies the key but also the algorithm. So in Indy, I think yes, in Indy the algorithm is kind of constant. The same algorithm is used everywhere, so there is no need to specify it explicitly. The only the key is being stored in the credential definition. So who will be creating this credential definition? The university. The schema is already there. The government has created that. Then now the university will create its own credential definition, which can be then used by it to issue credential to Alice. Okay, so let us go ahead and do that. So at this point we have the schema. Yes, so the university will create a credential definition. So let us go through the steps. So first, of course, the credential definition has to be with respect to some schema, and we will be using the transcript schema. So first, university needs to fetch the transcript schema from the Blazor. So for that, we can use this get schema request, just like NIM and the schema. We have get schema request transaction. Then who will be getting the request? This university, and the transcript schema ID we are getting from here. Okay, the schema ID need to be known. So somehow the university will know, because the schema is generally something which is already standardized in a country or in a system. So they will know that for transcript this schema has to be used, and according to that schema ID it will fetch from the ledger. And then so this is a helper function. So these ledger transactions might take some time to execute. Okay, parse get schema response. So this transaction might take some time to execute. That we use this helper function to ensure that after this line the transaction has executed. So the schema has been fetched properly. So this is for fetching schema. With that schema, it gets a definition. So this is how a definition looks like. Okay. So it has a tag, a type. The type will always be CL. The tag can be different. This is like a version number. And then there is one configuration which says support revocation true or false. So for this demo, I have set it to false. So this will be the transcript credential definition, and the public key which will be used for put is in the function issuer create and store credential definition. So it will store the public key from this DID into this using this build credential definition request. So the request type is create def. It will build a in the request for storing this credential definition, and finally the same one, sign and submit. Okay, so here we need to bring in this function, ensure this one. Let me just go ahead and paste it on top. Okay. Okay, let us just also add a bunch of print statements so that we know how everything looks. So we have a creddiff ID and a transcript credential definition, the actual payload. So let us print this payload, transcript credential definition. That will be saved. Let us also print the actual request we are getting from build creddiff request and see what actually is going to the ledger. So this step you can see credential definition setup. So this says the first step is get transcript schema from ledger, then create and store the university transcript credential definition. This function is called, and then I have printed the actual transaction that will be carried out. Okay, so this contains a bunch of keys and everything, and these are basically encoded strings. Indy uses a particular encoder. You can see the documentation. So this is everything is handled by the library itself, so you don't need to worry. But for each field like a degree, SSN, it specifies that which key should be used and what will be the key that field's encoding. So the credential definition stores all this. So apart from that, you can see that the signature type is CL and the tag is tag1. Okay. So at this point we have the credential definition registered also. Let me comment out this line and this line so that it is clean. So the ledger, what does the Indy ledger have now? The deed of the government, university and company, and the credential schema, which defines the structure, and the credential definition, which says definition by the university, which says if we get a credential from the university, how it can be validated. So at this point, we are the university is ready to issue credential to someone. Okay. So finally, we come to this step where actual verifiable credential will be issued, and verifiable credential will be formed, and how Alice is seeing the transcript. So Alice getting transcript. Okay, now this part has many steps. Let me go back to the slides. Okay, so as you can see that this part has many steps. So how Alice will receive a transcript verifiable credential from the university. So first is we have not yet configured a wallet for Alice. So first step is we will need to configure a wallet, and then next the university will need to generate a transcript credential offer. So this is a flow which whoever will be issuing will be create an offer first, and then according to the offer, the recipient of the credential will generate a request. Okay, so here university will create a transcript credential offer, and the offer will state the schema as well as the definition. The schema is obvious, and the definition is basically, since this university is issuing it, it will have its own definition. So suppose there are two universities, university 1 and 2, then you need to create two definitions. So university 1 will create its own transcript credential definition, and university 2 will create its own definition, because the definition will state what public key should be used to verify it. So university 1 will use its own public key in the definition, and 2 will use its own separate key. So here we have the university will specify which definition to use and schema to use in the credential offer, and in response to that offer, Alice will send a credential request. This request is very simple. It contains some obvious values. Apart from those obvious values, there is another one special thing called a master secret. Okay, so this master secret is a kind of a nonce. Maybe we should call it master secret only. So it is a private random data which is used by the holder to guarantee that a credential is uniquely applicable to them. Okay, so the issued credential will itself have randomization, so it will have some bytes which are sent as master secret by the holder during the credential request. This is also not something you will find in the actual verifiable credential specification, and it is more of a specific thing of Indy. Okay, so this master secret goes back to the issuer, and the university issues a credential, and the credential will have all the values and everything, and it will have the issuer's signature and the master secret also. Then this credential will be transferred from the university to the holder, which is Alice. Okay, so let us go ahead and see how all these steps look like, the code looks like. So okay, the first step is we have not created a wallet for Alice. Let us go ahead and create a wallet. So this is the same code as we using before: create wallet, create and store my edit. Note that this Alice's deed is not being stored in the ledger now. Okay, so it is just Alice is just creating a deed and storing the deed in the wallet. It is not being sent to the Indy ledger. Okay, so then the university has to generate a offer. Okay, so the offer will be sent to Alice. So that offer has to be created. So for that, first the okay, let me write it. So focus on this part of the code, how the offer is created. So we are using this anon creates library and this function called issuer create credential offer, and it takes input the university's wallet and the credential definition ID. Okay, so based on this credential definition ID, it will also find the schema. So schema and credential definition both are found from here, and that is used to create the offer. Okay, and this is stored in the university's transcript create offer. Now from this Alice actually gets it somehow. So this particular step, this should be a network call, right? This will be over network in a real scenario. So the offer is saved in this variable. Now this offer has to go to Alice. So in a real application, how you will do this? You will use the network. You will use the internet to send the offer to Alice. So we have just reassigned it from the university variable to Alice, this variable. So this can be over HTTP, over TCP, whatever. So at this point, Alice has the transcript credential offer. Now, what Alice needs to do, it needs to prepare a Alice prepares a credential request. Okay, so first Alice will read the offer. How? So it is a JSON, so it does a JSON and it loads the offer into this variable. Let me print this. You will see how this offer looks and comment out these lines. For now, run this one. Okay, so this is the offer. The offer has a schema ID, so it will be based on the schema ID, and also it has a credential definition ID, and then it has a key proof. So this part was already there, so this is in these things. So the credential definition ID, schema, these things are passed in the offer. Now Alice will use this offer to generate a request. How? It has the offer has the schema, the credential. So Alice creates and creates and stores a master secret in her own wallet. So generate the transcript credential request, it needs to fetch the credential definition from the ledger, and so to do that it needs to query the ledger. So for that we have this utility function get create def. Let me go ahead and define that. It is also very simple. So it takes the pool handle, did, and a credential definition ID. Okay, so did who is requesting and the credential definition ID. So it builds same thing, ledger.build get create def request. Okay, so build get create def request, and then send. Where is that? Okay, yes, we are sending it to ensure previous request applied here. So it does submit request to the pool and checks if it has succeeded or not. Till that time it sleeps. So yes, get create def will use this create def ID to query the ledger. And using that credential definition, it will use anoncreates.prover create credential request. Okay, so prover is actually the holder. So it is in the call sheet prover because the holder will actually prove it to someone else that okay, the holder, I mean, it has the proper credentials, right? So it is a holder. So Alice basically will create a credential request, and that request will have Alice's did, who is requesting the actual offer that was sent by the issuer, and then the credential definition that has been obtained from the ledger. So Alice won't believe a credential definition directly from an issuer. So issuer might be getting malicious for some reason. So Alice won't use the credential definition directly sent by the issuer. Instead, it will query it from the ledger, because that one is accepted. So, and then also the master secret. So the master secret is created in this step. So using these attributes, it creates a credential request and it sends this request to the university. How it is sent? So again the same thing. This step should be over network, but here we are just reassigning some from one variable to another variable, from Alice to university. Okay. Great. So this is transcript credential request. Now what do we need to do? Based on this transcript credential request, finally the university can issue something to Alice. Okay. So that part is very simple. Okay, so this particular dictionary is the actual credential that the university is preparing. So what it has is, it has this first name, last name, degree, status, SSN, year, average. So all these things must be exactly same as these attributes in the credential definition: first name, last name, degree, status, year, average, SSN. This encoding I will discuss later, maybe in the next class. So this encoding is specific to Indy. So Indy states how you can encode this. So it has the raw values and also encoded values. So you can see that the average, basically some average score, and then the name of the degree and status is graduated, all these things. So this is converted to a JSON using JSON DQMPS, and then this particular credential is passed to anoncreate.issuer create credential function, where who is creating the credential? University. So it takes a university's wallet, the actual offer that was created in the first step, the university created an offer, right? And then the request which is coming from Alice. So this is the actual credential that will be transferred to Alice, and this transfer happens over the network. Okay. Yes, and then finally it gets stored into Alice's wallet. So let us run this one. Will the presentation continue, or basically the next tutorial we can continue the presentation, verifiable presentation. Yes. Okay. So this entire string, so this is the actual credential. You can see that it has all the information, degree, and then all the other things, first name, last name, etc. And then it has some signatures. Okay, these are the signatures, and then there are some signature correctness proofs also. So these are kind of internal to Indy. You can go through the documentation of how Indy works internally and which algorithms are used to generate this. But I am not going to discuss it in this class. Okay, so I think we can stop till this, and from next class we can continue with how this credential that is issued to can be presented. Okay, so we have this last step left which we will cover. So if you have any questions, please let me know.
So this week we are not going to give you any assignment. The assignment will be given next week after the tutorial is over. So what I suggest that the different steps that Vishak has mentioned, you just try it out. Maybe you can just try out this sample program and try to run it to get an understanding about the individual steps there. That can be just for your practice for this week. And next week we will complete this tutorial part and give you a assignment on Indeed, which is going to be the last assignment for this course. Yeah. So if you have any query right now, you can ask.
So I have uploaded this presentation in MS Teams. We find it under general class materials, and here in the last slide there are some links which are helpful. So the first link is probably the most